start with debutant Carlo Tizzano. What sort of impressed you about your game, and what stage of this sort of super season did he emerge in your radar?
I probably chatted to Carlo halfway through the season and stayed in touch after that. He was in the hub training with the Waratahs boys once they were out of the Super Rugby. So, we had a bit of a work in progress eye over Carlo, and it's a fantastic opportunity for him.
I guess in terms of Carlo, is it fair to say he's almost the best lifelike replacement for Fraser, trying to replicate what he does over the breakdown?
I'm not sure that you can ever get like for like. We just felt that Carlo would suit the combination that we picked in the back row and in the second row, and so best complement that really. And he's such a good young man, we're really excited about watching him get underway in 48 hours' time.
He's known as a pretty abrasive player. Was there any element of it being a horses for courses kind of selection up against the Springboks who like that style of game?
No, I think his energy is relatively positive, more than abrasive, but he fights for everything, Carlo, and that's what first caught our eye. He's quite a dynamic competitor around the breakdown, and I think in the context of losing Fraser, we needed someone who could bring elements of Fraser's game, but probably not all of them. That's why we were picking Fraser before, but it's a great opportunity for Carlo.
Just on Taniela, family kind of reason, firstly, but secondly, how big a blow is that to lose such a giant in the forward back for the Wallabies?
Yeah, Taniela is Taniela. He's massively powerful. I think at the same time we've got to be able to build depth. And one of the things that we tried to do through July, even at the risk of making 10 changes before Georgia and 5 changes between the Welsh tests, is to try to grow that base. And so, we're in a very different stage of our development as compared to the Springbok, and that's always a risk. We've got about half as many caps, and a quarter of those belong to James Slipper. From that perspective, we are still going to keep trying to build, and if we do lose someone, we've got to be able to best operate as a Wallabies squad and not be overly reliant on individual players.
Speaking of depth, you've also handed a potential cap to Luke Reimer off the bench as well, which is exciting for him. What made him catch your eye after bringing him into camp?
We brought him into camp during the Georgia week. We had a few injury concerns at that stage, and so he trained really well, and that allowed him to be the springboard into continuing with the squad. Again, this week he's trained well. He's such a good competitor over the ball. He's got a good low tackle, and he doesn't give up the fight easily, Luke. So again, we're hopeful that he'll bring really, really good abrasive energy off the bench.
Does it almost work as a 1-2 punch to cover Fraser, who is a big loss, but having two very attacking mindset open sides to come on in Carlo and Luke, it surely helps to cover that loss for Fraser?
Yeah, to a degree. There was always the debate around do we even go with a 6-2 split, because having two specialised sevens is an unusual situation for us. But we feel that Jeremy Williams has done a really good job for us, covers back row and second row. So we just felt it was worthwhile having both those guys. And there was also a temptation of maybe using someone who was multi-purpose, like a Tom Hooper or a Seru Uru, to give us a bit broader coverage, but maybe not the same. If we lost Carlo early, it would be a long time in the 7 jersey, which is not overly familiar to either of those two. So it was just trying to balance all those elements up, really.
Was the decision to select for one, and secondly, another specialist 10 on the bench, which it's unusual as well. What does he provide?
Yeah, I think most teams have a 10 on the bench, maybe not a specialist per se, but Noah's had the most time in the saddle really for us through training and through those first 2 Welsh tests. So he's got that opportunity. We lost Tom for maybe a week and a half with a hamstring niggle. He's back to 100%, but he had to get through this week's training, so there was a little bit of uncertainty there. And Ben Donaldson, he's working really hard on his game, and we're trying to help him make sure that some of the things he's actually really good at get delivered consistently. He didn't get a good start to the Georgia game, and then things didn't flow for him. So we just want to make sure that next time he goes in, he's right up to speed and confident, because he's got a really good skill set.
The odds are stacked against it. Like there's double the amount of caps as you mentioned. There's so many World Cup winners in that South African side. You know, what gives you confidence that Wallabies can put up a great fight, and where are the couple of areas you can target the South Africans?
Yeah, I think one of the things that gives us confidence is that we're not guided by the belief that's external, but it's fantastic to have the support around, even around the city. Walking back from a function yesterday, people in the street sort of saying, "Oh, good luck on Saturday." And I haven't spent a huge amount of time in the rugby community here, but there seems to be a real support going into the weekend, which is, it sort of swings both ways for us. There's an expectation that we have to try to live up to, but there's a support that we want to keep earning. So with regard to that, I think we've got to make sure that we match up at set piece, because whatever you do against South Africa, you've got to be able to match up at set piece, because that's where the whole thing starts. And from there, they really stressed Ireland going side to side. The width of their attack, and I think with Sacha being preferred over Andre, he's going to bring some tempo, and whether it's Cobus or Grant Williams, they've got incredibly quick nines. So even around those fringes and then the edges, a lot of what they bring, we're going to have to be ready to match up for. Then on our side, I think we're going to just have to make sure that we're really accurate. A quarter of the tries they've scored over the last year have been from turnover, and if you give them that oxygen and allow them to breathe on the edges or through and behind you, because they can turn the game around so quickly with the likes of Cheslin and Kurt Learonce and Willie LaRue with his experience and passing game. It is quite intimidating if you consider their personnel, but at the same time, it's never just individuals that can win you a game, and we've got to collectively build a Wallabies team, squad, and belief, and hopefully there can be a little bit of a look at that on Saturday.
Joe, can you just run us through your thought process of no Marika Korobedi in the 23?
Yeah, Marika wasn't quite ready, and this week was about orientating him and getting him back up to speed, and I think Marika will be available beyond this week, but this week was a little bit too soon. And Marika and I had a chat at the start of the week. It's a little bit the same with Corey Toole, Max Jorgensen, those guys who were fresh in this week. It's a whole new language to learn. Just to get comfortable in the systems, it's just to give him enough time. Really, he's fit in really well. He's a character, Marika, around about the place in a really positive sense. And he has a real kind of sense of the game that allows him to get involved at the right moments. He works hard across the field, and I've always thought, coaching against him, that he's an absolute handful. So, you know, he's a guy that we've got a lot of respect for.
With the Springboks, they lay out their cards. They've got the bomb squad on the bench there. Were you tempted to go with a 6-2 bench, you know, to be able to combat that power in the last quarter?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you've got to have conviction in what you're doing, and you've got to consider where you're trying to take the team first. If you can, I think you're always conscious of what they're going to bring, and you know what it is, and it's very confrontational and hard to shut down. We know that's coming, but by being overly focused on them, we can start to lose a bit of our own identity and how these players we've got want to play. So it was a balance, and I'm not saying I've made enough mistakes in so many years I've been involved with coaching that we haven't necessarily got it right, but we're still finding out who we are, let alone trying to cater for what the opposition bring.
Do you consider Angus Bell in a similar category as Corey's and Marika's, just you need to see a bit more time on the training part? Yeah,
and Angus felt that as well. So he's another guy who's in a really good position to offer more. I had a chat to Angus just after training today. I thought he trained really well, and his confidence in his fitness and his readiness is increasing. So yeah, it'd be great to be able to get him back into the picture as well. But one of the dangers is I think being so anxious to get someone back involved, you put them in when they're not quite ready, and no one really wins on the back of that. The guy who's had the position so far and is working hard, you know, he's still trying to earn his place, and then the guy who's coming in, if he's not quite ready and not quite at the peak of his confidence, then you know, you probably lose out either way.
The last couple of things, guys. We want to come back over to this other room after as well. Did you have something? No?
Are you the sort of coach that embraces an underdog tag, or because of your pragmatic nature, it doesn't really factor in?
Yeah, I would be a fairly pragmatic. You know, when I started with Ireland, it was really easy to be underdog, but it wasn't necessarily relevant to the way we performed. We just wanted to get our process right and remain really process driven. Coaching with the All Blacks, there's always a massive expectation with the All Blacks, and so again, that can weigh heavily, but I think they live with it all the time, just like the Springbok live with it all the time. There's a real expectation when the Springbok go out that they're going to be incredibly hard to beat. So for us, we haven't really talked about it, to be fair. We've just talked about getting this right and that right, and trying to put enough things together that are accurate, so that we can get the process right rather than the perception, be affected by the perception, if you know what I mean.
Joe, can I circle back to that external force you were talking about? This city, this place, this community, that ground is so hard to win at for visiting teams, and you would have experienced that. What is it about Suncorp Stadium, the Wallabies, makes so hard to beat there?
Yeah, I toured here coaching Ireland 2018, and we won 2 out of 3, but the 1 out of 3 that we didn't was here in Suncorp. So you know, I'm not sure whether there's any mystique in the ground, and again, being a bit of a pragmatist, I think when the whistle goes, I don't think I'll be asking Kobus Reineck if he's interested in any history. They're all about creating their future, and every time a player goes out, they're trying to create the immediate future. They're not worried about what happens in the second half. They have to get what's right in front of them. So I'm not sure that it will affect the players, but it's a nice bit of history to have on your side. And the nicest thing about it is the support, and I'd love to see, you know, a lot of that support in gold really pretty vocal in getting behind the team, because while it might not change the bounce of the ball, it can affect the strength of belief and the motivation and the willingness to fight for the inches that matter.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.